What Hemanth Rao has created is a poetry.
It was almost like psychotherapy or something.
I'd like to think I'm a very responsible director for the producer.
The intensity what is there in Manu, I think none of the characters have played until now.
Hello everybody, I'm Vivek MV from The Hindu, and today I have with me director Hemanth Rao, actors Rakshit Shetty and Rukmini Vasanth to talk about their film Sapta Sagaradaache Ello. Hemanth, even before you made your debut with Godi Banna, you set out to do this movie called Love Churmuri, which eventually didn't happen. So after that, this is your full-fledged first love story that you're trying at. If you compare, what is your, how has your idea of love changed from back then to maybe now? Idea of relationship or even love?
It's changed a lot in the sense that when I wrote Love Churmuri, I think I was quite immature in the way how I used to look at things. So, life teaches you a lot of things. You evolve as a person.
Yeah.
So, idea of love has not drastically changed, but what is romanticized about romance,
Yeah.
that you sort of start observing while you are in a relationship as well. How it evolves, how it takes different shapes. There's a certain evolution to the relationship. So those are things that I've sort of understood, personally, which has of course resulted in how I write as well.
Right.
I think the titles of both the films say the difference. Right?
Yeah, to put it simply, one is
He's
called
calling that Love Churmuri. No, this is Sapta Sagaradaache Ello.
Yeah.
He's becoming more poetic.
Right. So, Sapta Sagaradaache Ello comes on the back of a very good legacy, I feel, because right from the 2000s we have had really entertaining love stories. Like say if you take Yogaraj Bhatt's say Galipata or Pungaru Male, they were wholesome entertainers. And there were some tragic love stories as well, say like a Maina or a Sanju Vet's Geeta as well. And then even Rakshit's Kirik Party was sort of a coming of age tale, but there was love story in that as well. So where does Sapta Sagaradaache Ello fit in terms of the genre and the conflict that it's trying to solve?
I would like to say it stands independently, not out of disrespect to the other films.
Yeah.
It's just that I have not used any of these films as any sort of reference point while writing the film. I love watching good love stories, and I feel good love stories are quite a rare thing.
Yeah.
Because, see, there is a innate glorification that happens of two people being in love, right? The way they fall in love is glorified, and every director or every filmmaker has his or her own interpretation of that particular moment or what that relationship is between two people. So, Sapta Sagaradaache Ello is a very human story. It's about two people who are in a relationship who happen to love each other. The story is of those people,
Okay.
like the emotional depth that we have tried to go to is what is unique about the film, is what I would say, in terms of creating a very visceral experience. What the characters go through is what the audience goes through at the same time. Because I've always looked up to films that Mani Ratnam sir has made, where you experience what the character is experiencing. You see, relationships are all about moments. It could be one sweet message that your partner sends you, or something, a sweet gesture, or a remark, or a casual statement of making you feel good in a way that doesn't require too much effort, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be building a huge palace or decking up a thing with flower or nothing like that. It could just be the way somebody looks at you and says something can be very special.
Right.
So trying to capture those in between the line moments is what is a very challenging thing to do. That's what Sapta Sagara is, as a team, we have set out to do.
Yeah.
That has been my vision, at least.
Yeah. And I asked about the conflict because, what made you write this? Were you thinking over the years when you were making Godi Banna and Kavaludari, at what point did you feel like you have to stretch it out into a full story?
When I decided to be a filmmaker and when I decided to go independent, this was the first film that I wanted to.
Okay.
This was my first script.
Right.
I wanted this to be my debut film.
Okay.
But unfortunately, things didn't happen, and I'm glad it didn't happen because the wait has been a very big experience, learning curve for me. And when you do get an opportunity, the fact that I was able to associate with Rakshit, with Rukmini, get the right technicians on board, with be it Charan, Advait, Ullas, or Raja Krishan sir, Vishnu, a bunch of technicians who have come on board, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to make this particular film if this was my debut film.
Right. So, I mean, any one of you can answer this. So, this has been a long journey, right? 2019, the project was announced.
No, not 2019.
2000.
Right after ASN.
So 2020 we announced the
20,
project.
yeah.
But I think we began the project only in 21.
Yeah,
right.
21.
Right. So 2020 it was announced.
Yeah.
So the trends have changed, right? Like before pandemic, the word pan India was not often heard. Like we had two big films like Avanesh Narayana and KGF. So, but again, I think like now what is the current mindset according to me is that people are watching these smaller films. Like if you see the last month, Hostel Udguru Bekagiddare and even Kausalya Suprajarama. So, do you think this momentum is a good thing for Sapta Sagaradaache Ello? Because this is essentially only a Kannada film, not like a pan-India movie.
In the sense, see, if you look at from the industry perspective, I think last 6-7 months there were no Kannada films which actually did well.
Yeah.
So I think Hostel Udguru opened that gate and made people to come back to theatres once again. And I believe people are really eager to come to theatres and watch films in theatres because get that theatrical experience.
Yeah.
And only very few films gives you that experience, right?
Okay.
I mean, sometimes even the smaller films can give you that experience.
Yeah.
But I mean, definitely there is a bifurcation between the films which wants to come on OTT or the films which comes in theatres. And I mean, I think since OTT is very new to people are making their mind that what kind of films I want to watch it at home, and what kind of films has to be my personal experience, what kind of films I want to go to theatre and watch, so that I get that whole sound design, all that experience put together.
The reason why I asked is there was a narrative that it has to be a spectacle for people to come.
See, the thing is, I think the rhetoric that exists that this is an OTT film, this is a theatrical film, I think it is still an ongoing thing. That's very difficult to understand exactly what an OTT film is, or like for example, the case that I would make is a film like Banda, Ek Banda Kafi Hai, with Manoj Bajpayee, released in OTT, did so well that they went back to the theatres, and it did well in the theatres as well.
Okay.
So it's a very dynamic market right now. It's a very dynamic reality where a small film, Daredevil Mustafa, for example, would have been a OTT film actually. But it did well in theatres. People came to theatres. Any film can do well in theatres because it's a theatrical experience, is a community viewing experience. It's a very, no other experience exists like it, where a bunch of people are sitting in a dark room and watching, something that somebody has created.
I mean, see, again, like there are films like Sakutumba Sameta, which for me, when I watch the film, I don't want the crowd to be around me. I want it to be
a very intimate, personal
experience, right? So I believe, like when we made Sakutumba Sameta also, we knew that this is going to be an OTT film. Maybe I am biased that way because like most of my favorite films, I have watched it on laptop.
Right.
Especially those days, there was no OTT, so torrents was the only way we could watch films. And I mean, like old films also, like for example, even films like Prestige or
Prestige is all laptop.
Yeah, dude. I come from Udupi, right? When Prestige, so the way it happens is in Udupi, we used to get films like after 4 or 5 months.
Okay.
At least during those days.
Yeah.
So it releases in Bangalore. It makes one round in Bangalore, and then the same reel travels to the tier 2 cities and then tier 3 cities. So Udupi was the tier 3 cities when it comes to films.
Okay.
And so
back then.
Yeah. And I'm talking about 15, 20 years back. and so I have watched most of my favorite films on laptop.
Right, right. So, Rakshit, this is a question to you. It was a fascinating decision to split it into two parts. Like, it came as a surprise to a lot of people. How I look at it is, traditionally we have seen movies as a first half, second half thing. Like, we always say that either the first half was better than the second, or second was better than the first. When you suddenly split a movie into two and it's sort of a continuation, does that problem go away?
See, I
It
think
was not suddenly split away.
No, in the sense when you tell us that it's going to be.
okay, now that we have watched both, I have watched both the films as an audience. So I would like to say that for me, what Hemanth Rao has created is a poetry, and the way the emotional graph was growing for both the characters.
Yeah.
It was in a lot of ways poetry. And the other day we were discussing that, I mean, both the poetries are very different. It is poetry. Like side A is also poetry, side B is another poetry.
Right.
But both the poetries belong to different genres.
Got it.
But if you look at it deeply, there is a continuation to that. I mean, it is actually two genres, but intermingled. The first film, poetry, starts from probably 0 and it raises to 100.
Yeah.
And the second film doesn't start from 0 again. It starts
100.
raising from 100 to 1000.
Right.
But because it's starting from 100 and raising to 1000, it looks like a different poetry altogether. It looks like a different genre.
In the sense that, see, while shooting it, the time, the reason why it took that much time is also because we shot during COVID.
Yeah.
During the first, right after the first wave is when we started shooting. Then we had to stop shooting because of the second wave. So it was very challenging to shoot the 2010 portions during COVID.
Yeah.
Because everybody is wearing a mask, and I was trying to create a reality where there are no masks. So that was the reason with regard to time. But coming back to the discussion about the two halves, organically, I didn't set out to make two parts. I started feeling like this is an independent film, and I echoed that immediately when we were just due to shoot a very expensive schedule. I was like, I'd like to think I'm a very responsible director for the producer. So I went to him and I was like, it's better to talk about, exceeding budgets and all that now only, as opposed to at a later point of time, because I'm a producer myself. So I had that conversation with him, and him being a sweetheart, he was like, you shoot, we'll decide later. You shoot what you want, shoot how you want. So that complete freedom and liberty I got. And then what we decided was that, when you see the two films together, anyways we won't be able to release one film in one year and then the next film 6 months later. If it comes out, it has to come like next to each other.
Yeah.
Because it is a film that requires that emotional connect.
Got it.
It requires you to have experienced side A, for you to go into side B. Like you need to carry that emotional hangover. So we were like, let's make the announcement when, at a later point of time. So that's how we between us, we had clarity. But yeah.
I believe he had the script for both the films, but the poetry what he was writing on set.
Right. So coming to the characters, Rukmini, at least from the visuals, we see it looks like something little emotionally charged character. So what aspect of it did it connect to you?
I don't think I jumped into it trying to find a hook as Rukmini.
Right.
I think one thing that was really exciting about the process while working with Hemanth also, and when we were plotting it, is that there was no attempt to be like, okay, what part of this character do you relate to? And it was fun because I didn't have to bring any of Rukmini into it.
Right.
So there was a lot of subtext, a lot of backstory that Hemanth provided me with. Not a great deal, but enough to know how she clicks. Why certain things are crucial to her, why certain things have far-reaching consequences it was almost like psychotherapy or something. When you're studying, like when you're in a therapy session with someone and they're like, yes, childhood, that sort of thing. It's kind of that process. You get a certain amount of information, and then from that point you make choices and you go as you will. And Hemanth directs with a pretty light hand. So I had that freedom to go as I would, and only if something flew in the face of a vision he had, would we discuss it and then take it, make a choice at that point. So it was a very freeing, liberating process.
And Rakshit, personally, I feel that you're quite tailor-made for this very brooding character who's always thinking something, and like, because say, for example, Ricky or even Karna were very intense. Simple Agon Love Story was also a very philosophical character who keeps telling dialogues about love. So, but what is Manu like?
If you talk about intensity, then probably the intensity what is there in Manu, I think none of the characters I have played until now has that intensity. I mean, Karna and all has, I mean, they show that intensity for moments.
Yeah.
But I think Manu carries it. Like that's his character. In the sense, for me, Sapta Sagaradaache Ello is as an actor, it's a like I've finished one phase. Now I want to explore another phase of being an actor.
Right.
And probably Sapta Sagaradaache Ello gave me that platform.
Yeah, and that also like brings to this point that when the Side B look was released, a lot of people spoke about the physical transformation, right? But mentally, what was the transformation like? How did you get into that space of? You look like a heartbroken man.
Actually, yeah. For me, life and cinema has always gone parallel. So during Sapta Sagaradaache Ello, I went into a mode of meditation all the time, and it's like there's a well, and I wanted to clean the bottom of the well.
Right.
So I jumped in, and as I was cleaning it, at the other side, I was doing Sapta Sagaradaache Ello.
Right.
I mean, this is my analogy after coming out of the well.
Yeah.
So, since I was trying to clean the well, when I came to the set, and when Hemanth told me to do something, it was quite easy for me to be there to play that character, and I don't know. I mean, the kind of experience what I've had in Sapta Sagaradaache Ello as an actor, I've never had this before anywhere.
Okay.
In any of my films. Most of my films I have written them. So since I've written them, I know the character in and out.
Yeah.
And most of the time it is, like, let's have fun. Kind of. I know the character. Let's have fun. I mean, Narayana character in Avaneshri Manana Karna in Kirik Party. In Ulidoru Kannante, at least I took 3 days to get into the character.
Yeah.
Because I've written it, I don't know how to perform it.
Right. Rukmini, any love story works mainly on chemistries, right? Like, so how did you, we saw workshop pictures with Rakshit. So how did you crack this chemistry with Rakshit? Like, what was the process that went into it?
I think that's something that Hemanth was very prescient about from the beginning. I mean, not just the fact that I was basically starting out, but that Rakshit has like a legacy of films he's done that I have also watched. So I come into any space with a history of all his work and all the avatars I've seen him in. Right. So it's very easy to be awed by that kind of thing. And I mean, initially I was awed by Hemanth's presence also in terms of all the work of his that I've seen. So you come into this space feeling very small on your own, especially when you're starting out. So I think Hemanth was very conscious of that in the workshops that you just mentioned. Organizing that was very, very helpful in sort of breaking the ice between Rakshit and me. And there were a lot of conversations that we had in those workshops. It wasn't like acting workshops as such. We cooked Hemanth Anna Sambar, which was fun. But in general, it kind of led to just a certain ease of being. I didn't feel intimidated after the first day of working together. I felt like an equal in that collaborative space, which I think really helped me to perform to the best of my ability at that point.
Right. So. Hemanth, in cinema, at least now, there's a very big discussion that always starts off with saying this caters to 90s kids, and there's something that caters to the Gen Z or a 2K kids. I'll take an example. Love Today, the Tamil movie, which came on OTT, and a lot of even Kannadigas like that. So the generation that they depict there is sort of like very hasty in decisions and a little reckless as well. Whereas the 90s kids who are like, you know, celebrating movies like love stories of what we saw in 2000s, they're more, you know, reserved, organized, calculative and all that. So how are you kind of, you know, trying to please these kind of groups?
No, I have a very contrarian belief about this, in the sense that this thing of, it's a very analytical way of looking at it.
Right.
But actually, people in the 90s were doing stupid, hasty things all the time.
Right.
And it reflected in the films also.
Right.
Right? It will be one middle class guy who will suddenly get angry and hit somebody, which, you know, there is a villain after him after that point. Or it is one incident that narrative has always existed.
Yeah.
People that were doing stupid stuff then, people are doing stupid stuff now as well. It's just that ease of technology has changed.
Yeah.
How stupid and how quickly you can be stupid, I would say. So I think internet allows people to be stupid. You know, it's like a direct, you open the door and you don't even have to open the door to be stupid. So at the same time, you can also be very intelligent. It's like the internet allows you both. I don't believe that people today who are in relationship, boys and girls, men and women of today, feel any differently as an emotion to what people in the 90s felt. Right? If I have to message a girl and tell her that I like her, I will still feel nervous. Right?
Right.
It's the same way that somebody in the 90s would feel nervous about sending a chit across the, you know, classroom. It's just that now it's through WhatsApp. It was the mode has changed, but the feeling is still the same. So that aspect of it is something that is universal and will always be there, irrespective of how technology changes.
Rukmini, you just spoke about how there had to be an ice broken because well-established names are around you. Now that you've finished the project, as a performer, what are the takeaways from this movie?
I am overwhelmed because I cannot list one. I am a different human being.
Right.
I was a very, very different person when we began this film. I am a very different person today. I don't think there is a single thing, one single thing that I could could talk about. I mean, the process of making these films has been as life-changing for me as learning to act was. You know, I equate my time in drama school as a sort of theoretical time of learning a variety of concepts, of having a sort of safe space with 15 other students to try something. SSE Side A and Side B for me have been a laboratory which is it's as safe a space, but we get to share it now with other people. It's been a place where I have been able to try a multitude of ways of approaching a character, approaching my craft in complete and utter safety and support from everyone around me.
So I just want to do this as a actor-director combination that you both are. So in Godi Bana, there's a scene where Rakshit kind of breaks down after, like he goes to a mortuary and that's not his dad, he figures out, and he comes back and he breaks down. So that's quite a serious scene. So if you compare Rakshit of that film and today, if he has to do a similar serious scene, how has he changed?
No, he's it's like the fantastic actor in him has always been there.
Right.
It's not changed. It's just evolved to a much larger degree today. The finesse in his craft is phenomenal. Like he switches on and switches off like a fan, you know, like an electric switch.
Right.
So much so that initially I was like, Yel Guru, you know, you have that feeling, right?
Yeah.
While directing. And there are lots of moments in Sapta where all of us have been blown away by his performance. The entire set has gone into like a state of trance. I have broken down. It's like, but I think it's his investment into the craft, investment into cinema over the years. And somebody gets really good by doing it over and over and being so dedicated and so meditative towards it. So that is how they get, that is the only way that you can take your innate talent and become the best at it, is by working hard. And he's a testament to that. So it's insane. His work ethic is amazing. He'll show up on time. He you know, I do a lot of takes. Like for me, directing is a process of letting go, in the sense that I'm not very rigid. I hire good actors so that I don't have to act and show them, right? They are supposed to, you know, interpret it, and I allow for that interpretation. But I have a very strong idea of what I want.
Right.
So until I get it, I will keep doing takes. I keep doing a lot of takes. He's never complained about that. It's never a question of, you know, that it's always a very creative work environment where both of us enjoy it. There are lots of times when we would have done 12 takes, 13 takes. After the 13th take, he'll do a take. I'll be okay, but he'll be like, Marana. You know, he has that desire to do good every single moment. When you make a film over 137 days, to show up every single moment with that attitude is amazing. So that has drastically changed. And specifically with regard to process, in Godibanna, for example, there is a scene where he had to break down after you know, he fears that his father has passed away.
Yeah.
So to get into that scene, it required a little time for him to go to that space. Like, he was listening to music and he was in a particular zone. Here it is like the most intense scene. He walks into the set, he's talking Arab se before the shot, and then I say action, he goes into that space and then comes out as effortlessly. There is zero, you know, prelude or you know, sort of a thing about getting in or getting out of it. So that is transformed massively.
Yeah.
So if I had to put it in a certain way, so I think during Godibanna, like if I have to do a scene which is intense, like you have to cry and all, I used to take time and, you know, and ask people not to talk to me. So I used to go in one corner, sit, and go to a zone where I'm supposed to cry.
Right.
But then as soon as the take starts, I have to start from a place where I'm not supposed to cry. Okay. And then I have to, you know, slowly, emotionally drag myself to a place where I'm supposed to cry. So that jump was, you know, I believe was giving me a problem then, which now, you know, if I don't take the time and go to the zone where I'm supposed to be in the middle of the scene.
Right.
So I go to a zone where I'm supposed to be when the scene starts, and then slowly I know the process, the way he shoots it. I know he'll take me in that journey, and slowly he'll take me in that emotional journey, and where I'm supposed to reach, I'll reach when the time comes.
Right. Yeah, and your observation about Hemanth, like there is a scene, that long monologue of Anant Nima Pushpa. In that, when Shruti Hariharan is narrating, there's one small bit where you look at her, and you know, there's a love story kind of growing between you both as well. That touch was really nice. So can we expect more such subtler moments?
Thousand times.
And how has he like grown as a filmmaker as well?
See, again, I think that filmmaker was always inside him, and it's not that I don't see very different Hemanth here. It's just that he is exploring a new emotion, because Godibanna was a different emotion. Here he's trying to explore a different emotion, and see, Godibanna, if you look at it in a certain, when Anant Nag sir is as a character, when he's showing his emotion, there is no give and take. He himself is expressing something. Even my character, since I am not throughout the film, I hardly have very few scenes with my dad.
Yeah.
So the emotional scenes are not with him. It is which is happening inside me. It is not interaction between two characters. So in Godibanna, most of the emotion scenes are like that. It is not interaction between two characters. It is inside them.
Yeah,
there is an emotion inside them. Whereas in Sapta Sagara, it is an interaction between two people.
Right.
The emotion exists inside a character because there is another character who is reciprocating to that emotion.
Right.
I think that is the difference.
I think that's a very
that's a valid observation because
it's a very good observation in the sense I hadn't thought about it that way, but it makes a lot of sense because see, there are a lot of scenes where between them, the performance there is only a certain point to which I can direct them and give them notes on their performances, on the takes, beyond which it is between them, right? That space is created between them. They have to, sort of go into it and be in that moment. So there are lots of times where because of his performance, there is a drastic change in her performance, and because of her performance, there is a drastic change in his performance. It becomes a thing where they feed off each other,
right.
and I am feeding off them in a way. Because I'll see something when they are performing where the look in their eyes is so, there is a certain aspect to it. I'll go tell Advait, we'll just go for a close of just the eyes. Advait will then, feed off this idea, and he'll be like, okay, I'll light it like this. So that's how the film has been made. So every step of the way there is a strong attempt to leave our hearts in every frame of the film.
No, but I have to contribute to that also in the sense that because that dynamic between Rakshit and me was so important, there were certain scenes where and it really helped my performance because in a take also Rakshit would change a certain part of a sentence, not the word but an emphasis that he chose or something which would just trigger a completely different emotional response in me, and then it kept that alive between us so much, which made it so exciting to play. So even though we were doing multiple takes, the dynamic between the two was like completely different each time.
Right.
I mean, see, they say, right, I mean, acting is responding,
Reacting,
so reacting to the character you're playing, your opposite character. And I believe, the kind of chemistry what I had with, I call her Rooks. So what we had together, probably because the kind of seriousness what she showed in the workshop also, and in the sense, she used to make notes. All that, and I used to just go and sit and what is she even doing? So, like I have seen in Godimund, I have seen Shruti Haran asking questions, and I was like, okay, so okay, do I need to ask questions? I am not getting any questions. But the way she was preparing notes for herself, and more than that, I believe for me, when I am acting, if I can see something through the eyes, and if I can, the interaction happens through the eyes, right? More than words.
Yeah.
When you look at each other, and if there is an interaction happening there, then this is easy.
Right.
Words comes naturally then. Yeah. So I think that worked really well with Rooks.
And to sign off, lastly, Rakshit, from somebody who made people wait for your movies, in less than a year you have given 2 movies now. So, on Guru Purnima Day, you put out a video about the prequel to Ulidaru Kannante as well. So, what is your current state of mind like, and what can we expect from you?
Current state of mind is a transition from Sapta Sagara to Richard Anthony.
Yeah. And how are you kind of dealing with that? Like, has the writing process begun?
The writing I've written many drafts, but I still feel that like there's so much inside here that it's not come on papers yet.
Okay.
So I still have to write many more drafts.
Right.
And I'm Richard Anthony is something which I know I won't compromise even a 0.1% in the film, because I want it to be during Ulidaru Kannante there were, like, in terms of budget or in terms of other kind of, like, the number of people who can join the team, there were constraints inside which we worked on. Whereas I know right now I have a platform where I can do a film exactly the way I want.
Right.
Without any compromise, and
Right.
I want to give my best.
Right. Superb. All the best to all three of you. Thank you so much for talking. Yeah.
Thank you.
For more such content, keep watching The Hindu.